95 Pounds of Hope, Chapter 3. The only one who was any comfort to me in those days was my grandfather. It's not surprising, considering that my grandpa Leon had always been the one who made me feel better, ever since I was old enough to go into his workshop. Grandpa Leon's workshop was my life. It was my hideout, my Alibaba's cave. When my grandmother started getting on our nerves, Grandpa would wink at me and whisper, "Gregory, how would you like a little journey into Leonland?" And we would tiptoe off while my grandmother mumbled, "Go on then, fill the kids' heads with nonsense." He would shrug his shoulders, answering, "Please, Charlotte, please, Gregory and I are leaving because we need a bit of peace to think." To think about what, if it's not asking too much? I think about my past, and Gregory thinks about his future. My grandmother would turn her back, adding that she would rather go deaf than listen to such rubbish. And Grandpa Leon always replied, "But, sweetheart, you already are deaf." Grandpa Leon is as good with his hands as I am, but he is smart too. When he was at school, he was a regular champion. He was always at the top of his class. And he told me that he never studied on Sundays. Why? Because I didn't feel like it. That's why. He was the best in math, French, Latin, English, history, everything. When he was 17, he was accepted into the hardest college in France. After that, he designed huge projects, bridges, highways, tunnels, dams, etc. Whenever I asked him exactly what he did, he would relight his cigarette and think out loud. I don't know. I have never known the precise definition of my job. Let's say that they ask me to look over plans and tell them what I think. Is the thing in question about to fall apart? Yes or no? Is that all? Is that all? Is that all? It's important, you know. If you say no and the dam falls apart just the same, you really feel like an idiot, believe me. My grandfather's workshop is the place where I am happiest in the world. It's not much, just a hut in the backyard made of planks and corrugated iron. It's too cold in the winter and too hot in the summer. I try to go there as often as possible, to make things, to borrow tools or bits of wood, and to see Grandpa Leon at work. At the moment, he's making something for a restaurant. I go to ask his advice, or for no reason at all, just because I like being in a place that feels right. I told you about the smell of school that made me feel like throwing up. Well, in the workshop, it's the opposite. When I'm in that overcrowded shack, I breathe in deeply and smell happiness. It's the smell of oil, grease, the electric radiator, the soldering iron, putty, tobacco, and all the rest. It's delicious. I promised myself that one day I would manage to distill it and invent a perfume called Eau de Workshop. Then I could smell it whenever life got me down. When Grandpa Leon found out that I was staying back in third grade, he took me on his lap and told me the story of the tortoise and the hare. I remember exactly how I snuggled up to him and how soft his voice was. You see, nobody bet a penny on that pathetic tortoise. He was far too slow. But in the end, she won the race. Now do you know how she did it? She did it because she was a brave little tortoise who never gave up. And you too, Toto. You are brave and determined. I know that because I've seen you at work. I've seen you spend hours and hours in the cold, sandpapering some scrap of wood, or painting one of your models. I think you're just like the tortoise. But they never ask us to sandpaper at school, I cried in reply. They only ask us to do things that are impossible. When Grandpa Leon found out about sixth grade, it was a different story. I arrived at their house as usual, and he didn't reply when I said hello. We ate in silence, and after coffee, he made no sign of moving. Grandpa Leon? What? Shall we go to the workshop? No. Why not? Because your mother told me the bad news. I can't understand it. You hate school, yet you do everything to stay there as long as possible. But you're not as stupid as they say, or are you? His voice was harsh. Yes, I am. Oh, that attitude really gets on my nerves. Obviously, it's much easier to say that you're no good or do nothing. Of course, it's just fate. It's so easy to think it's some kind of destiny. So now what? What do you intend to do now? Are you going to repeat seventh, then eighth, and with a bit of luck, you'll get to college by the time you're 30? I fiddled with the corner of a cushion, not daring to look up and meet his eyes. No, really, I don't understand you. In any case, don't count on good old Leon anymore. I like people who take their life into their own hands. I can't stand lazy people who wallow in self-pity and get themselves expelled because they have no discipline. It doesn't make sense. Expelled and staying back? Good for you. What a picture. Congratulations. When I think that I have always been on your side. Always. I told your parents to have confidence in you. I made excuses for you. I encouraged you. I'll tell you this, my friend. It's easier to be unhappy than happy in this life. And I don't like people who take the easy way out. I don't like complainers. Be happy, for Pete's sake. Just do what you have to do to be happy. Then he started coughing. My grandmother came running, and I went outside. I went into the workshop. I was freezing. I sat down on an old oil drum and wondered how I could take my life into my own hands. If I could spend all my time building things, I'd be happy. But there was a slight problem. I had no idea where to start. No plans, no model, no materials, nothing. All I had was a huge weight inside which kept the tears from flowing. I carved something on my grandfather's bench with my penknife and went home without saying goodbye.